Yo, brother, sister, mother, father.
Hey,
doggy.
what's up? Wow. Welcome to Broadcast 2. Joined by my brothers here, Mr. Frank J, Godeyvio. Got a little triune of masculine mystery and potency here.
Yeah,
don't we,
it's been
gentlemen?
a strong thread these last few days, and we're about to depart from each other. I'm about to go to Mexico. He's going back to Arizona. He'll be staying here in San Diego, and there's a lot of people engaging in these conversations about masculinity and femininity, and really about masculinity. Like us coming from this place, having these conversations, I keep hearing feedback from so many people how important this is. So thank you so much. Like it's you, even Beth right now. Beth is she's my financial coach, and she's a powerful woman herself, and thank you, Beth, for acknowledging the conversations we've been having. She's like, yeah, thank you, like, for having these conversations, and just want to let y'all know that you are a part of this conversation, that it's through our interaction and our collective synergy that ripples these new energies and thought forms into the world. And so I would love for y'all to participate and to comment and engage and share with your audience, because I want this to be a common conversation amongst as many people as possible. So
more and more brothers joining in this conversation of what does it mean to be a man, what does true masculine power look like, and also what are some of the techniques and styles of relating both with ourselves and with others, and especially with the feminine, that are really going to bring about healing and groundedness in this time where a lot of people are I think in some darkness and confusion out in the world, and especially in the mainstream, man.
I think more so in a curiosity. We were seeing what's not working, and any intelligent person can see can witness a repeating pattern in their relationships and their health and their wellness and their finances, and be like, well, this isn't working. How do I change this? And just that curiosity in itself is a place to start a conversation. And you know what? What I'm feeling strong is that we today, a natural kind of synchronicity happened when we were at a cafe.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, and this guy, Godeyvio would like to say, we went up to the cashier, this guy that we've seen a couple times, and he says something that starts off a conversation about the male sexuality, and you were already just feeling this thread, so you want to share this story and then get into this part of the journey of the deep mysteries of the masculine mind, part 2. Check in, baby. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. We're going in right into sex.
Get ready. So so we met this brother at this cafe, and I asked him, like, yo, how you feeling, man? What's your flow like today? And he's like, man, I feel good. I'm like, yeah, how so? He's like, bro, you ever heard of semen retention? And of course, you know, we all know about this because we're connected. And we spoke to him, and he's like, yeah, man, it's been one day I haven't masturbated, because usually I masturbate twice a day, sometimes more.
I was blown away. I was like, is this a common thing among men? And actually look at it, it's like men ejaculate their semen or masturbate at least once or twice a day. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
And often to porn.
No, they're missing
often
to porn, which is it distorts
the mental distortion
view of women.
Yes.
And it also depletes energy. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy to me. Like, it's just like it's your life force. It's your strength.
Literally.
Exactly. It's like, I can't believe that actually happened.
Well, I mean, the way to really recognize is the fact that that's the way the whole world operates.
Wow.
You know, the one of the most
It's
powerful.
ignorance. They don't really
one of the
acknowledge.
most powerful industries on this planet is the porn industry.
Right.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And think about like how many people are on the planet? About close to almost like 8 billion people, right? So every millisecond, there's people constantly born. So that means there's a new girl turning 18 every so many seconds.
Wow.
And there's always going to be an abundance of women who are ignorant, or ignorant in the sense where they just don't know any better. And they get easily influenced. Exactly. Exactly.
Right. And there's also that many men leaking their life force energy.
Exactly.
Like 30% of all internet traffic, this is fucking baffling, is porn.
30.
Like most, nothing else is that big on the internet besides like financial transactions.
The most visited website in the world amongst like the top 5 is Pornhub.
Pornhub, yeah. This is crazy. This is crazy. And so how many men out there are feeling depletion because of this pattern?
And just one day, I'm sorry, but just
much
one
to
day,
talk about
this
this.
brother was like, I feel strong, I feel so good. And then I told him, like, well, have you ever thought about maybe going 21 days? And he was like,
Mind blown.
Bro, 21 days.
And I asked them, I was confused. I was like, well, do you have a girlfriend? Because it's different having a woman because you share pheromones and you receive energy from the femininity and it's a healing experience from the body, even if you're ejaculating in a sexual act. So it's a very different experience than just masturbating and releasing because it's a mental stimulation
intention.
And then it's a root stimulation. It just releases. So the heart's not activated, the physical body's not processing energy, the breath isn't circulating, so it's a real low energetic experience.
But I also think it's important for our viewers to bring them to.
And I'm not saying it's bad. This is curious. I'm curious about this.
But it's very important to bring them to the awareness that why shouldn't a man ejaculate? You know, and there's a big difference between orgasm and ejaculation. A lot of people confuse the two. And ejaculation is when you physically release liquid seminal fluid out of your penis. Or in women, it's when they have a physical release, fluids, vitriols, or liquids. But an orgasm doesn't necessarily have to be physical. Now, you may ask yourself, well, you know, why wouldn't I want to make my partner ejaculate? Why wouldn't I want to give them an orgasm? And once again, it's not about orgasm. It's about, think about this for a second. All the food that you eat. Let's talk about your men, or let's talk about the men, or let's talk about the men in relationships. A man, the best of all the food that you eat goes straight into your semen. You're the best of your thoughts, the best of your emotions, everything, enzymes, vitamins, minerals, everything. The best of you goes into your semen. And that's the way that life created it, so that we could give the best of ourselves to our next generation. So when you're constantly releasing your seminal fluid, you're releasing the best of yourself and depleting yourself, and that's the reason why men age before their time. They lose hair, their immune system drops, and pretty much they lose the chi, which is the life force inside of the body. So the question is, in a relationship, well, oh my God, okay, that makes sense, Godeyvio, but so you're saying that I shouldn't have sex with my partner, or we should have sex, but he shouldn't ejaculate. But that's where it comes with those techniques, and that was the thread that was coming in earlier before we started, going live. Was like, I want to give techniques to teach you how to enjoy sex with your partner, but without releasing the seminal fluid.
Wow.
Yes.
We'll get into that more, but this is important because there's also it's still a level of understanding. I think why are men and maybe women overindulging in pornography? And this is something that's super dark and distorted. Sexuality is so innocent and so pure. Even strange sexual fantasies, it's still a pure form of expressing oneself sexually, which is, I feel, very natural.
It is.
But
children do this very naturally.
They're
exploring their body, and there's nothing wrong with it until a parent, a teacher, someone says, "Hey, don't do that. That's not okay. Please don't do that near me."
Oh, no one wants to see your private parts.
Right. Private parts.
Put your pants on, and you see kids want to walk around naked all the time.
Oh yeah, because they have the innocence relationship to their body. It's how you relate to your own physical body, and this is one of the saddest parts about culture. Is especially if you're in religion, especially if you're in a culture where the parents and the caretakers weren't taught about how to relate to their body. They project their own uneasiness with their body onto the youth. And this is how this has been perpetuated down the lines, and why sexuality is the most guarded taboo in culture. I want you to hear that. Sexuality is the most guarded taboo in culture, I'd say, on average. The other taboos come into money, they come into power, into dominance, hierarchies, but sexuality in the body has historically, I would invite you to consider, been the most repressed.
Wow.
And why is that?
What happens when we repress it?
Well, it goes into the shadow.
It goes into the shadow, and then it becomes either violent, it becomes overindulgent, it becomes all types of things that brings us out of balance and alignment to our higher nature, and it becomes more of a lower nature. Because I think in any emotion or any kind of energy in the body, there's several different ways to use that energy, and we can use it in a very primal, instinctual way. There you go, great word. And or a higher, almost transmuted, transcendent way. And the energy in itself is impartial.
Right.
And this
Energy's
is
neutral.
Right, it's neutral, it's impartial. That means it's not personal. It just is what it is, and it's expressed in an instinctual way and or a transcendent way. And so I think like a real maturing individual can start to appreciate the innocence and the purity of the energy, whether it's sexual or emotional or mental, and then start to, in that appreciation and acceptance, you have more power to start to use it in ways that are more aligned with you in your life.
Bingo.
Rather than being controlled by it.
Bingo.
Man, I have a thread coming in, man.
Bro.
Speak it.
So in Spanish, the word society is pronounced sociedad, and the word dirty in Spanish is pronounced suciedad.
Oh, wow.
Society is sociedad. Sociedad. Dirtiness is suciedad. So the teaching is that you shouldn't follow the path that the majority follow, that the society follows, because it's the dirty path. And the spiritual transcendent path is the narrow path. And when the majority of the people go one direction, we have to really fight against the current. And it's not necessarily about resistance and fighting, but just to making the decision of knowing that if we want different results than the way the world operates, we have to take the initiative to live a different lifestyle. And sexuality is one of those ways. It's one of those powerful energies.
It's such a journey, though, to come into balance, coming from complete conditioning and into like, because then what happens is, what I've done is that I went from conditioning, like not having any standard, just like whatever it is, seeing pornography and just like being in this like really superficial mindset, to like dogmatic conservation, which is not healthy in itself. Dogma is a shadow in itself. But sometimes it takes those two contrasts to find the balance, right? And I want to save people time from my own journey going through the doorway myself. That listen, you don't need to go extreme to try to find that self-control, but there's a healthy balance of integration. It's healthy, and I want to have that conversation.
It's starting, like, for me, with like the acceptance of our physical body and animal nature. And you spoke to it earlier, like there's an instinctual felt presence of the body. Like we were all created from a sexual act. And that's something like it's easy to forget when we get very mental and conceptual, but we were all created from a sexual act. Therefore, how can it be bad? It's generating life itself. Wow. Look at nature. Everything is sexual in nature. Ecosystems, symbiosis, it's all sexual. The bees and pollination. Hummingbird right there as I look up. The pollination of plants, animals, of the fungal kingdom, of the mineral kingdom, they're all in a sexual relationship because they're trading information and growing new life. And so as humans, our part in nature is to do the same, and we share in that inheritance, which comes from Mother Earth, Father Sky, however you want to look at it. And there's something that has come in between human beings and the natural generative process. And what lies in between is sociedad. It's the dogmas, it's the religions, it's the governments, it's wounding that has occurred generationally into our ancestors and been carried with us like a sack. It's been carried and handed off to the next generation.
I'm convinced that the biggest problem in our world is the distortion of the energy of the collective consciousness around masculine, feminine, and sexuality.
I think that's at the root.
That's at the root.
And I think it's purposely done that way because, one of the things why I study the esoteric is so powerful, man, whether it be true or not. But you know how the text, the ancient text talks about where was the physically, where was the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden?
Where was the tree of knowledge? Was it in the middle?
It was in the middle, in the center. Now listen to this. It was known that the tree of knowledge, it was in the center of Garden of Eden, and it was the only tree that was forbidden, right? Now, if I was to stand up, Frank J, or anybody, if you were to stand up from and measure, and like let's say you go against the wall and you take a ruler from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet and you measure a person and you divide it by 2, it will give you the center, which is the sexual, which is the genitalia. It's right in the middle.
Whoa.
So the teaching is that the forbidden tree of knowledge was in the center of the Garden of Eden. A lot of people take it literal. They visualize a beautiful garden and they say, yeah, it was in the middle, it was a tree. But these texts were written in code for only those that understood. And the Garden of Eden, or not the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Eden is your temple, your body. But the tree of knowledge is your sex.
Sexuality. Wow.
And when you
partake of that tree, that fruit, it is a fruit.
It's a fruit.
It's a fruit. It's a sensual seed.
It's a seed.
And
It's
the
a seed.
evolution in consciousness,
Semen.
therefore you see.
Your semen.
You see semen.
Well, and Yahweh in the old translation of the Bible, it's a we, by the way, which is kind of weird
Right,
if you
yeah.
feel
Elohim,
into that.
yeah.
Elohim or Yahweh
Elohim,
is
yeah.
a we. It's like if Adam and Eve eat of the tree of knowledge, if they eat of the fruit, they will become as we are with eyes opened. That is a very powerful
Everything's
code.
immortal.
Oh my God!
What- yeah.
I just got downloaded.
What does that mean to you? I invite you.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? They will
because
become
were
as
born
we are.
as a slave species, and then but the and then once they get the code, we started wanting to have sex, and then the evolution.
Yeah, it gets deep, man. But
It goes very deep.
however you choose to believe in this stuff,
It doesn't
or,
matter
or
about the
study
beliefs.
this
At
stuff.
the end of the day, what's practical, what's real for your human
There you
evolution,
go.
right here, right now,
Practical.
in your body.
So
In your body.
So
That's
let's
it.
give them techniques. I want to give you a technique, a
Beautiful.
very basic, simple technique. You ready? Now think about your heart. And we were talking about this earlier. Your heart, right? Your heart
I love the
pumps.
heart.
The heart pumps blood to the lower extremities. How does it bring the blood back to the heart if it's going further away from into your limbs? It's gonna have valves. It's gonna have a pump. So this pumping motion is the same exact pumping motion that we have to do by squeezing our sphincters. Our sphincters, one of them is your anus, is your butt, is your butthole, and you gotta squeeze. So there's a breathing technique that we practice, or that I've been taught by the masters, as you're in the act of performing intimate relationships with your partner, as you're entering, and allow me to share this with you.
This is beautiful. Yeah, this is good.
This is real.
Most people operate from an animalistic point of view. When the guy enters a woman's temple, it's like boom, 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 boom. Let's get it off. Let's build up the heat, the intensity, and
because that's
ejaculate.
what biologically
And
we're at the
discharge.
fucking gate, ready to go. The semen wants to come through. The conscious man is able to hold that and use his mind to be patient and to have an extended experience, which is so much more transcendent and powerful.
Here's the technique. So the next time you men or you women with your men, the next time, instead of jumping into that straight, boom, passionate, animalistic, let me feel you inside, try this instead. Make a prayer before initiating. One, we have to, look, I'm going to give you techniques. Listen to these techniques. The best time to have sex, the very best time, is when the prana is at its highest point.
Son.
That's at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., maybe the latest. Wake up at that time, and before you begin to initiate an intimacy, make sure you go to the bathroom and evacuate. Make sure you have nothing from pee or poop, nothing, completely empty, both of you. And then make sure that the ambiance, the energy, the feng shui, the environment is perfectly set up for this alchemy that's about to begin. Once you're in that space, make a prayer, set the intention, and instead of inserting it to the woman's temple, this is what the man should do. Come close to her without putting the tip of your penis right by her temple, at the entrance of her temple. When she breathes in, you breathe out. When you breathe out, she breathes in, and there's a synchronization.
Bro, that's powerful.
There's a synchronization.
Start to vibrate.
And now, as a woman, what I invite you to do is begin to draw him in with your vaginal muscles.
Call him in.
Draw him in.
Call him in.
As he slowly, gently starts entering the woman's
This is what's
temple.
important for men. I just want to add, hold
brother.
that,
Yeah,
because
go
we're
ahead.
going to jump in and riff. This is something I've learned to appreciate, and I really honor a woman's temple. Like, yeah, for sure, the mind. I'm a man, and I love the woman's body, and it's like, it's desirable to me.
Right.
And I'm wise enough to know that it is a temple, and I hold it so sacred. And it's just like having that, like instead of forcing yourself into it, unless that's like, you know, the moment, what that moment's calling for. But in this type of alchemy, it's just really like honoring this, like, oh, I'm about to enter this woman. And really holding that sacred and letting her feel that you're there, so she feels safe to open up and to call you in. And then as you come in, it's like then you build, right? And then you allow it to build. But it's almost like a, you don't have to actually communicate this verbally, but it's a feeling of consent.
There's a felt presence of like invitation to the temple.
intention.
Just like you wouldn't burst into a holy place in the physical and
It's
just
like
barge in.
90-10. You come in, say, I want you,
Yeah.
and she's like, okay.
Yeah.
come in.
It's like a flower. You
Just
and what
force
you're
yourself into
speaking
it.
to is like the invitation and the build to open that petal of that lotus flower,
And
the temple. There's so many beautiful metaphors here, but
Right.
when you sync breath and like as you're explaining it, like this requires strong self-control,
Yeah.
especially from the man, which creates an alchemy inside of you of breath, body, and as you're saying, a felt experience of the emotion of the moment, and not mental. It comes out of the mental because the mental is just like, okay, let's go. It's time. It's go time. It's go time. It's like, no.
Like rest into the feeling.
Rest into
the
Yes.
feeling. How does it feel? Like,
Yes.
and extend that feeling. And that's why I love the work that we do in the retreats. Is that we really emphasize like the foundation of building connection within a tribe of people and within ourselves is how much you can heighten and sit with your sensations in your body. How deeply can you feel the sensations in your body? And when you practice doing that, like throughout the day, like you develop this huge capacity to feel sensation without story.
Right.
And it is fucking phenomenal. You feel like an actual human being. You feel alive. Like, whoa, I'm sensational.
Whoa.
yeah,
Whoa, fam.
yeah, powerful
Wow.
stuff, man.
Keep going,
Wow.
bro.
Stuff.